Hello and welcome to Finovate Europe. My name is David Penn. I'm a research analyst with Finovate. And joining me this morning is Dave Jones. He's with Nuxeo, and we're going to be talking a little bit about financial services and the challenges of digital transformation. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
It's my pleasure. Great to be here.
Great. So first, if you could maybe just, by way of introduction, just tell us a little bit about the work that you do at Nuxeo.
Sure. So I'm VP of Product Marketing at Nuxeo. We have a content services platform offering that I promote and take to market across the globe. Lots of exciting things going on in financial services, which obviously we'll talk about in the next few minutes.
Certainly, certainly. Well, let's start off with that topic of digital transformation, a huge topic across industries, certainly in financial services. What are some of the key challenges that financial services companies have when it comes to making that move?
Well, I think digital transformation is something that's been around for a long time. It's something that we've been talking about for a long time, certainly. But we don't see many examples of really good digital transformation going on. And I think there's almost a catch-22 situation. A little bit like building a house. We seem to be thinking and trying to decide how to build a house based on which windows we'd like, or which fittings we'd like in the kitchen. And you know, we're all focused on things like customer experience, on new web platforms and mobile platforms, which are very, very important.
Certainly.
Don't get me wrong, they're where we want to get to. But a lot of the time what we're finding is that people are actually forgetting about the foundations, forgetting about the data, the content, the information that's within their businesses that they need to leverage, that they need to get access to consolidate and connect to customer experience systems, to those mobile apps, to provide that streamlined service and that streamlined engagement that is what we're all trying to get to. But that catch-22 is that currently there are many, many challenges going on behind the scenes. Many financial services organizations have got data and systems and infrastructure that have been there for 15, 20 years. They're trying to combine those with new cloud solutions. They're trying to combine them with mobile and web apps. And up until now, they've been struggling to do that. And it's really back to the house analogy. It's a little bit like trying to decide on a house, you know, by choosing your windows first, but forgetting about the foundations and the materials that you're actually going to build the house on.
Right, right. It just seems like one of those things where everyone knows they need to get there, so they just start running, and it's like you forgot to put on your shoes, you forgot to put on your coat.
Yeah, it's a little bit the opposite of, there was a quote from Alice in Wonderland where Alice talks to, I think it was the Mad Hatter or the Cheshire Cat, and she says, which way do I need to go? And they say, well, where do you want to get to? And she said, I don't know. And they said, well, it doesn't matter which way you go. We have the opposite of that. We know exactly where we want to go.
Right.
We're just not entirely sure how to get there.
Interesting, interesting. You mentioned the cloud just a little while ago, and can you talk about the relationship between the cloud, the opportunities of the cloud, and financial services?
Sure. So I think the cloud is bringing opportunities. It's also bringing challenges.
Once again.
You know, back to what we talked about before. Right. The cloud obviously brings with it the opportunity to scale massively, to scale up and down accordingly, to connect multiple different services and systems, and to provision them very, very quickly.
Yes.
Traditionally, I think financial services has been a little bit slow to adopt the cloud, primarily based on the security concerns. And that's fully understandable. I think they're moving much, much faster in that way, but there are still large financial services enterprises who are reluctant to move content, data, systems to the cloud. But I think one of the things that we've learned from the cloud is that you don't have to go all in, if you want to use a poker analogy. There's a lot that we can learn from how cloud solutions are built. We use a term called cloud native. Which means that modular, scalable aspect, these interconnected pieces that plug together as opposed to having one big box of a system. That mentality and that architecture allows you to actually get the benefits of cloud design, even if you want to host it on premise. So that there are multiple ways to skin that cat, so to speak.
Sure, sure. Well, let's look a little bit more specifically at some of the things that Nuxeo is doing in terms of helping some of these companies make some of these moves, become more digitally agile. We're thinking about things like customer experience, operational efficiencies. We talked about security and things like compliance. What are some of the things that you and your company are doing?
So we're working in a number of different areas within financial services, but one that I really like is almost a modern update on a very traditional, very old concept. So it's the concept of a safe box that individuals used to have to store all of their most important documents, you know, their birth certificate, their house deeds, whatever it happened to be. And we're working with a large bank in Europe to essentially create a digital version of that, a digital vault, as they call it, to provide a number of different benefits to their customers, but also to the business. So from a customer perspective, it allows them to digitally do exactly that, to keep all of those, you know, vastly important documents. But from a business perspective, what that gives them is that core foundation, that information and data in a centralized vault that not only helps them from a GDPR perspective, for example, and from a compliance perspective, but also allows them to use that core and that nucleus of that information to then feed the other parts of the business. So if you're applying for a mortgage, for example, and you already have a savings account, there's very little point in asking the customer to provide their passport again, to provide, you know, details of their financial history. You already have that. But currently, connecting those two pieces within the business has been very, very difficult. But this data vault project is allowing that data vault to be the central, you know, the central system of record, if you like, system of knowledge, to share that within the business. What that's also giving the organization is the ability to build very quickly brand new applications on top of that, to serve customer experience, but also to surface new business opportunities by analyzing the data and the content and the way that people are interacting with this. They're able to say, well, actually, you know, this segment of users would be perfect for this new product, and take that to market much, much quicker.
Wow, interesting. So both on the issue of the vault, I recently, 2 years ago, bought a house, and sort of my most recent encounter with really big data. I'm trying to compile that material and get it to them, and just thinking, my goodness, this is 2016, and I've got a fax machine, and I've got a copier, and here I am doing that kind of thing.
And this goes back really to my comment earlier about the fact that a lot of us are focusing on things like customer experience and mobile. So it's great that we can now take a picture of our passport on our mobile phone and push that into the process, which is better than it was, but actually it's not really solving the problem because we already have that passport stored 3 times within other parts of the business.
Right. We were talking a little bit about technologies, and you were talking about the opportunity for some of these things to create new things, opportunities for business lines, revenue streams, things like that. Can you talk about some of the technologies that are involved that are making some of these things, you mentioned the digital vault, possible for financial services to take advantage of?
Sure, so I think we could be here until next Christmas talking about all of the opportunities. For us, there are 2 key technologies that are going to drive a lot of change and drive a lot of opportunity. The first one is what we call low-code development. So we talk about data platforms, we talk about all of the infrastructure that's in there. And from an IT perspective, that's hugely important. That's the foundation to the house. But low-code platforms essentially, for us, allow you to build the house very quickly on top of that core foundation. It's the ability to quickly prototype, to design, to roll out hundreds of applications potentially within a single organization, built on that core foundation, but specialized and personalized to the specific needs of, you know, the insurance team, the retail team, to whatever that happens to be. And that's really the way that we go from these platforms to individualized solutions. Which is hugely powerful and hugely required. The second piece is something that I'm sure you're going to talk about a lot. It's artificial intelligence. But I think we're at a really exciting time with AI. AI until now, for me, has been a technology looking for 101 solutions. I think 2019 is the year where AI really goes from being a technical toy to being something really useful, and we're certainly looking at a lot of real-world use cases, which aren't, you know, as massively sexy as AI systems that predict everything about everything, but looking at things like records management and how do you apply retention policies to the key documents within your system, and doing that in bulk using AI systems to both surface the type of content that you have, but also to predict, you know, what retention policy you should apply to that. Also things like enriching metadata on those legacy systems that exist within your organization. So data and content that was stored 15 years ago that has got huge value in there, but you really don't know what it is or where it is. So using AI and the power of the cloud to go back into that data to apply today's techniques and models against that data to enrich what's there.
Right.
It's not looking for a needle in a haystack. It's really trying to find the hundreds of potential opportunities within that haystack.
Right, right. Fascinating stuff. It's really interesting to see as you said, perhaps at this cusp that we're at, where some of the things that we've talked about, we've heard about, are really starting to things where companies are starting to be ready to make those commitments, and they've got companies like Nuxeo to really help them get to those places.
Yeah, and I think that this is the interesting thing. You know, we have almost a number of different areas, a number of different technologies and trends coming together. And we almost have the perfect storm brewing at the moment.
Excellent.
Where we have the desire of the end users and the organizations. We have consumerization going on, so you and I using our own personal devices and then expecting that to happen within business.
Right.
But you also have the technologies coming together now and not wanting to work in isolation, but working in harmony, creating dynamic ecosystems of connected systems that really can actually start to satisfy the needs of the business and the enterprise.
Wow. Fascinating stuff, fascinating. Well, thank you very much for joining us. It's been really nice talking with you and some of the work that Nuxeo is doing, and we're going to certainly be looking forward to hearing more from you and from the company in the future.
Look forward to it. Great to talk to you.
Okay, thank you very much, and thank you very much for joining us.